Last night I kind of kept going in and out of the class. Okay, so it is 8:33 p.m. Central Standard Time, or CST in some vernaculars, Thursday, July the 8th. And welcome to Contemporary Issues in Criminal Justice. And you guys, most of you know me, Richard Wright, from previous classes. And also, I should say this to you, that when first up front, the first thing I'm going to tell you is, did you read this week's chapter in the textbook? Did you read did you, um, we don't have a book in this course. It's a trick question. Yeah, there is not one. Jessica says a little bit. I think you might be talking about the modules, right? Yeah, the modules. Yeah, I knew you were talking about the modules because there is no textbook in this course. That's one feature. So there are no PowerPoints in this course. Um, this is really what we call an exit course. And most of you in this class, if not all of you, are heading towards your associate's degree. And we hope to see all of you uh, in the bachelor's program to continue and go forward with that. But yeah, this is a capstone course, and that's why it's called a capstone course. It's almost like an independent studies course, and I appreciate and enjoy it. When it used to be 11 weeks, it was nice, but I like the 5.5. This is the second time I've taught the 5.5 week course. So yeah, so you're going to immediately, you know, oh, okay. Well, guess what? This is like an independent studies too, except one difference is that we have weekly lectures and discussion posts and things like that that you might not have in those independent studies. I've taught critical issues in criminal justice, which is also similar to this course as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen. And here we come. All right, should be popping up. It's kind of stubborn. Why it don't want to pop up, I don't know. Okay, let me go back. See why it's not. Okay, there it is. But I gotta get it to pop up in my, oh, duh. I forgot. They make you touch it and then touch the bottom. Yeah, I told you they added some new stuff here to throw us professors off. So um, this is a little different. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at, and because it's first week, I will not go into student mode. So this basically tells you my emails that I sent out to you, my welcome email, and then it tells you adversity is the springboard to success video. You all are familiar with that one, but it's here again for you guys. And so be able to help students that don't know me to learn about why I am the way that I am and why I'm tough because I want professionals. And this is your grade book. And so it shows that 8 discussion posts have been submitted. See in the written assignment, and you'll see that the discussion. Now, let me get you so that you're not confused here. And you probably know this already now, that you see the date in here, the 11th, for both the assignment and live. that's Sunday. Okay, that's normal. But then the discussion post, it says the 10th, which is Saturday. However, that does not mean that your initial post is due on the 10th. It is actually due the 8th, which is tonight. And you will see that. If I didn't put that in the announcement, I thought I fixed it, but if not, I'll go back and fix it. But your initial posts are due tonight. Your reply posts are due Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, starting with week 2, it's going to end up being back to Tuesday for your initial post, and then remain Saturday for your reply posts all the way until we get to week 6. So that's the thing we'll be talking about. So I wanted to make sure that you got that right there. Okay. So this course is really not a taxing course. It's a very interesting course, and um, if any of you, I don't know if any of you were in my uh, constitutional law class. Were either of you in the constitutional law class? Okay. I didn't think so. Okay. In the constitutional law class, we deal with this topic of the Fourth Amendment. And if you take that, which that's a course that usually is taken later, you'll run across me in that. I love teaching that course as well. So the Fourth and the Fifth Amendment, which we'll be talking about in just a few minutes. All right. So then you know already that what they did was the lounge is now for you guys alone to exchange information. Nobody's responded to communicate with each other. So that's the lounge. It used to be that you'd see mine, but now I'm in the course chat. This is where you will find my thing here that you guys already know about, and you've seen that mug shot, and you know about this as well. All right, the blown up version of me getting my law degree, and you can reply to that and me. The other is where you're replying to each other as students. Okay, let's move this over a little bit. Then, okay, let's save this. This is the calendar. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. Okay, so I got to get used to this. I keep going out of the class because really all I had to do was just hit that and it would have put me back in the class. Okay, so now let's take a look at this information, which is kind of like repetitious for you guys, but I still like to make sure that we go over it. The syllabus, and it has my name, and my office hours. All of you know. You can text me, call me, or email me any hour of the day except the 25th hour of the day. They used to have it different in the old system, but now it's on the syllabus itself. So you want to make sure that you keep that in mind. You guys know that the best way to reach me is to text me or call me. And I mean what I say anytime. Okay. And there's the phone number right there. And that's my email address. Now, this one right here partially applies to you. You're required to conduct research for all papers. And then the second statement doesn't apply because it wouldn't make sense. It says that the sole source of your papers cannot be the textbook. I should probably go ahead and just matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you. I'm going to fix that. You'll see something. Let's go and do this. Let's fix that so I don't confuse anybody. Okay, this is you don't have access to this, but I do. So okay, Here we go. I'm going to take that sentence out. Okay. Okay, save it. This is in real time making a editing. So now I get out of that. And now when we go back to the syllabus, it should be there. Correct it. Yeah, so you're required to conduct research. Oh, I'm still in the editing mode. Oh, I went back to that. Okay, my bad. Let's go back. Okay, ultra should be corrected now. There we go. Okay, there we go. So a reminder that you're required to conduct research for all papers. You'll lose 2 points for failure to conduct research. And then you know about the other part. All written assignments should be an APA, and you know what that is all about. And so then down here, you know how discussion posts operate. You know my policies for discussion posts for the few people that are not familiar with that. Um, you know how I am about um, no brief statements, no short statements. I want you to elaborate, showing you put your mind into preparing that. I want to see some critical thinking. Citations and references are welcome but not required. Um, Also that your posts, as I said, are due on Tuesday nights, with the exception of this week, obviously, because we didn't start the class until Tuesday. So they didn't want discussion posts to be due the same day. So that's why they gave us till Thursday for the first week for initial posts. But normally it would be Tuesday nights and then, of course, Saturday night for your reply posts. Now, you should also be aware of the fact that if you submit a discussion post on Sunday, that following week, you will get no points. Now, there is, though, one rule that I alone, I think I'm the only one who does this, that if you submit your initial post by Saturday, which means that it's going to be 4 days late, you're going to lose points. But if you submit your reply post that next day, Sunday, you will get 1 point taken off if it's in proper form for 1 day being late, and you'll get it. So if you submit your initial post and reply post that Sunday, deals off, no points at all for that. So that's a reminder of how I operate with that. Library resources, I will go pretty quickly with that with you guys. If I start going too fast, just let me know. Now, see what I mean? This assignment uses a combination of assignments and live lectures. Um, Readings. Check your course schedule for your assigned readings and due dates. No textbooks. We'll be dealing with that. Your written assignments, and it tells you what you'll have to do. In some instances, you'll perform in-depth research on a particular topic and report back on your findings. In others, you will be presented a scenario and asked how you respond to that given situation, which is pretty much what you do anyway. This is the live lectures. And notice this. Look at the points. Over half of your classes for these assignments. So when you miss them, that's not good. 64% of your grade. Discussions. So if you take these three and add them together, that right there is 90% of your grade. A little more, like 93. And then you got 7% for your live classroom lectures. All right. So, and you know already, live classroom lectures serve two purposes. You can get the key phrase, but you also get an understanding or elaborating or some discussion about the issues that are covering that week's module, such as we'll do tonight with week 1 very briefly. And you already know my rule, but I'll say it again. I don't operate with C or D students or F students. I don't help students to get those grades. I help you to get A's and B's. And I say that it is very important that you know this. Don't take offense to it, because I don't answer how do you get a C in my class. That is a question that you can ask me all day long, and I won't answer it. I refuse to answer it because my goal is honor roll and dean's list. A dean's list is A and A minus. Honor roll is B all the way down to B plus to B minus. And that's how I roll from there. That, and the reason why I do that is very clear, is that those who are in the habit of producing honor roll, dean's list work will do the same in the future, and you will succeed professionally. I know what I'm talking about because that's how I made it into this very nice law school, Northwestern. They wouldn't even let me in the door if I was a C student. They wouldn't. They would not. And so I had to be a B student or and above to get in. And so when you want to succeed in things, you want to be the top of the crowd. All right. You want to be, as we say biblically, the head and not the tail, above and not beneath. That's the way I teach my students as well. Okay. Accommodations. If anybody needs accommodations, they reach out to their accommodations coordinator, who generally happens to be your academic dean. Transferable skills, I'll go over these real fast because you should know them by now. And you've heard me talk about the importance of each of these, and the reason why we have these transferable skills, and they're called that because of the fact that they transfer from school into your professional work. So you want to have good communication, that's written and oral communication. That's why we stress it in class. We stress critical thinking because we want you to be able to use this gray matter up here to be able to um, demonstrate that you have not just copied and pasted, or that you researched and found material, but that you analyzed it, critiqued it, that you owned it, made it a part of you, and that you could even comment why you don't agree or agree, and support your statements every time. And in fact, there's a course that you guys took on critical thinking when you first came into this school. And it's very, 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 very important because employers are looking for critical thinkers. I know that when I was looking at the Derek Chauvin case, and there was testimony from the chief Arredondo on the stand. He was talking about critical thinking and law enforcement officers, police officers, and it's not a Rasmussen term. It's a term of art across the board. I'm a natural critical thinker because I went to law school and studied to become a lawyer. So I use what's called the Socratic method. And those of you who already know that when I supply things, yes, I do sometimes throw a little tricky curves at you. But the point of the matter is that one thing you have to be able to do is think on your feet, be able to think pretty fast. And then sometimes I always tell students, little, slow down before you answer. Don't answer so quick. It's not Family Feud, okay? It's not you hit the thing, okay? You want to sometimes lay back, but then at the same time, don't be gun shy in terms of trying to submit answers. So critical thinking is important. Digital fluency, everything's digital. Your textbooks, which you don't have here, but your library system that you use for research. You learn how to use PDFs, which you very rarely use here because your documents must be in Word form all the time because I run them through Grammarly, as you guys already know, and I'm looking to see if you just didn't put any critical thinking in there at all. And so your plagiarism count will go up in Grammarly if you just copied and pasted, but you didn't demonstrate any critical thinking. So digital fluency is very important. You're going to, if you're in any kind of field, you're going to use computers. You're going to use iPads or Android pads. I'm an Android person, as those of you who know me already. I'm not an Apple person. Most young people are Apples. I jokingly say I don't like anything that has a bite out of it. If you look at the symbol for Apple, you know what I'm talking about. And so digital fluency, we want you to be fluent digitally. An old man here, 71 years old. When I came out of law school, there was no such animal around us. So I am now fluent with it, very good at it. And, I have these things on my phone, these things right here. You can see them. They're called apps, and which is short for applications, not apples. And I even have my books, and I have all kinds of things. I pay my bills on here. I do all kinds of things. I keep up with my schedule. I even have a WebEx app. Did you guys know that there was a WebEx app that was available to you on your phones? Yes, yes, it's very valuable. Uh, oh, okay, you're using it now. So yeah, and so I don't usually use it when I'm no, it doesn't work as good. But the other thing is that, like, for example, it's hard showing a big, nice screen like this with my app on my phone. So I very rarely do it. I do it when I'm in a pinch in a situation. So anyway, digital fluency, diversity and teamwork. We are, yes, we are from various backgrounds, cultures, races, sexual preferences, and everybody, religious beliefs, cultures, people should be respected for who they are. We are um, uh, proud to be able to stand for our ethnicity. I'm proud to celebrate the holidays like Juneteenth and Kwanzaa and things of those natures. I celebrate all of them. Christmas. I even celebrate Hanukkah because and Yom Kippur, because when I worked for the law firm I worked for, it was Sonnenschein, Carlin, Nath, and Rosenthal. And if you do any research, you'll know that all those names were Jewish names. And so they introduced me to the culture. I went to synagogues. Uh, I didn't understand what was being said, but I had the same problem with the Catholic Church too. So, but the point of the matter is that I learned things. I had uh, a, a yarmulke. I had one of those. I forgot what it's called. The hat that you wear. Um, I get I get that one. I can't remember that one, but I know what a menorah is. I know what a lot of things. Dreidels. I know about everything. Invite me to all the bar mitzvahs. Talking about food galore, and also, but don't invite me to the brisk. The brisk is something that if you know about it, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, there's a lot of things. I'm just saying all this to say that I enjoy my life of being able to interact with people from all cultures. I learn things from different people. And so that's what I like about Rasmussen. Rasmussen stresses diversity and inclusion at this school. We, in fact, just celebrated this past month, Gay Pride for the last month. There were different things going on with the Diversity and Inclusion Council, which I'm a part of. And so I teach my students. And my God, those of you who are in criminal justice, that's y'all. or the Utes. If you saw my cousin Vinny, you know what that's about. Then you'd understand the fact that it's important. It's important for us to learn about each other. It's very important. We don't live in a vacuum. Okay, we don't have to agree on everything. We just have to be civil. All right. And please, whatever you do, base your stuff on facts. I do not like people shooting from the hips. I don't like conspiracy theories. I like shoot your best shot and provide some reliable support. That's why we don't use Wikipedia. You all already know that. But I jumped ahead on that one because that goes with information literacy. So anyway, teamwork. How do you do teamwork here? You work together in discussion forums. And when you out, you're going to work with various individuals for various areas. I've worked with um, prosecutors, which I was one for a little bit. I've worked with police officers, of which I won for a little bit. I worked with detectives, of which I was not one, but I was an investigator. I worked with defense attorneys, of which I was most of my career. And I've worked with probation and parole officers. I've worked with scientists, forensics people. I've worked with individuals who are psychologists. I have a daughter who's a criminal psychologist, and she loves doing that. She decided not to become a lawyer. But we work in teams. In other words, we utilize the services as teams to handle whatever the project that we're assigned to. Ethics. Did I say that? Ethics. Ethics will keep you out of trouble. I always tell my students, I produce ethical, professional, and educated criminal justice students. I was talking to a police department the other day, and those of you who are my friends on Facebook, and you can go there, Richard Wright JD, you'll see that I'm going to be doing some stuff with one of our local police departments here in my area, talking to them about um, how to operate as professionals and how to stay out of trouble. I have at least two students that are members of the St. Paul Police Department. One was from a long time ago, and the other one is he's been in classes most recently, the last term or so. But they talk to me about the things that they uh, share about what they learned in this class, and that their department actually endorses those kinds of practices, which is a good thing as well. So ethics, you know, you can get into big trouble, people, by trying to cover for your partner, um, to protect them if they're doing something wrong. And it's reaching a stage where if you don't do something to try to correct the issue, you can go down with them as well. So ethics is very, very, very important. In fact, there's a course that's taught on ethics. I used to teach ethics in criminal justice here at Rasmussen. And so, but ethics, professional responsibility, abiding by the codes of conduct in whatever area that you operate in. And then information literacy, as I said, not using Wikipedia, and everybody should know why we don't use Wikipedia, but I'll say it anyway if you don't. It's a word-based page. You can change it. You can change it to whatever you want to, and the next person come along can see it. But most websites have an administrator, which means that it's operated and controlled. They can only make the changes, but you don't have that issue with Wikipedia. And so all of these outcomes will be demonstrated in your assignments as we prepare you for the future. Attendance policy, you should be familiar with that. My late assignment policy is the school's late assignment policy, that you have up to 7 days to turn in your work, but don't get comfortable with that, because each day that it's late, you lose 10%. So let's hypothetically say if you turn in a paper on Sunday and it's really good, you'll get 100. If you turn in that same paper on Monday, you get a 90, 80 on Tuesday, 70 Wednesday. You see where I'm going with that. So that really by Thursday or Friday, you failed in terms of you can still get points, but they will keep adding up. Now, with discussion posts, it says here, in some cases, students may be asked to complete an alternate assignment. I don't do that. I have never done that, and I'm not going to start doing it because, I mean, there's discussion posts. Here's what discussion posts take the place of. We're not in class together physically, and we have discussions, and that's what discussion posts are. And so if we were in class physically in the building, then you would find that information there already. All right. So now we want to make sure. Now, you already know about this next part, that instructors may waive the late penalty in case of extenuating circumstances. And you know that I am the one who determine what extenuating circumstances are. Okay. And I'm very liberal with them. I work with my students, but just let me know. I just got to know. I got to know. Okay. And so the rest of it, incomplete, you can look at that yourself. Academic integrity, you can look at that yourself also. So that's the syllabus. All right. So now let's go and look back at the institution tools. And there's the resource tab over here, which you can see that here. But if you were to, for example, okay, let me show you what I mean. Okay, let me close that out. Show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so now I'm here. Now I want to go to the student preview mode because this is what you see. So when you click on the student preview, which you don't do, that is already going to be there. This just shows me. So let's look at your version of the course tools. So you see what I was saying about the syllabus. You see that. You didn't see that that amending one. But here's resources. That is where your resources information, and it's the same stuff that you used to have before, APA and all of that stuff. And then, by the way, there's 2 seminars coming up for APA that you can, webinars that you can take part in and sign up for. There's one for advanced, that's July the 20th. That is 2 weeks, a week away from next week, next Tuesday. Then there's all the things here. And then your academic integrity video, which I am going to just take a few minutes and go over it, even though I know you know all about that. And then this tells you how to make an appointment with a librarian. So let's take a minute and let's look at this academic integrity video. It's going to be closed caption. So if the sound, Dean Mladic, John Mladic is tell you about that. So
academic integrity. Academic integrity is making decisions in your academic life that are based on honesty, trust, fairness, responsibility, and respect. This means being honest in the work you do, while respecting the work that others do. So what is cheating? Cheating means distributing or receiving answers or information by any means other than those expressly permitted by an assignment's requirements or an instructor. Some examples of cheating include asking fellow students for answers or copying answers during a test, using notes, devices, or materials during a test that your instructor has not approved purchasing papers from websites or other sources, copying your classmates' work, assisting a classmate in misconduct, and other violations as noted in the academic integrity policy that can be found in all course syllabi. Always ask your professor if it's okay to use notes during a test or to work together with classmates on an assignment or quiz. Now let's talk about plagiarism. Plagiarism means using another individual's work without giving them credit or taking another person's work and claiming it as your work. Some examples of plagiarism are turning in an assignment that someone else wrote, copying words or ideas from someone else. This can be a library resource, course textbook, internet resource, or other material without giving the original creator credit. Failing to put quoted works in quotation marks, or using someone else's ideas in your essays, but changing a few of the words to make it sound like the words are your own. Plagiarism is not just about written words and ideas. It's possible to plagiarize images, graphs, coding, or video as well. So how can you avoid plagiarism? Cite your sources, both in the body of your paper as in-text citations and on your references page. Whenever you want to use words, images, media, or ideas that were created by another person, you should cite that person appropriately as the source of that information.
But how does academic integrity relate to the work world? Isn't it just a college thing?
No. Integrity in the workplace starts with good practices and skills built while you are a student. Would you turn in a project document to your manager as your own when someone else wrote it? Not if you want to keep your job. Individuals can be reprimanded or even fired from their job for plagiarism. Following academic integrity guidelines while you are in school builds those skills and ethical practices that carry through to the workforce.
Okay, I understand how they're connected, but what do I do if I need more help?
If you have questions on the academic integrity policy, consult your course syllabus, talk with your instructor or dean, and if you need assistance with EPA citation style or how to avoid plagiarism, contact the Rasmussen library team through our live chat or schedule a research appointment on our library website or through the resources tab of your course. If you would like APA tutoring, schedule an appointment with one of our peer tutors on the course resources tab.
Okay, so that's the academic integrity video that you see here. You will also see too that we have our own guide. So if you want to do the guide for School of Justice Studies, you click there on our guides, and then there's the School of Justice Studies, where you deal with research, database writing, a lot of things that can help you how to deal with Blackboard Ultra, criminal justice, and the various courses that you have. Okay, so it's a tool that's used. All right, so now also if you go to the library homepage, you'll see what we just saw a minute ago. There it is right there. And if you hover over any of these, it also has the various topics that you need. Technical support, of course, you click on that. Then 365 days a year. They're on holidays, they don't take breaks or none of those things. And the best way to reach them is not to use this. Try not to use this, but to use this and call them. And they will help you with dealing with technical issues as well. Okay. All right, so let's get out of that. All right, so now that's what that is. Okay, so now let's close this. And so now I want to get out of the student review. So I want to go back to the regular view. So let's go back. Okay, so now, as you know too, that there's announcements each week, and I posted announcements that I sent out to you guys. Of course, you have the academic integrity video that I was talking about a few minutes ago. And if you click on that, there it is right there. And there's also the link which will lead you to it again. The APA assistance, which has take you to guides concerning APA. And there's some information there that I've included for that. As you know, we're in the 7th edition now. These will all be available for you the entire time. Then the final one is the writing process, and it tells you the steps in the writing process. Just bringing you those to your attention. So now let's get to these specific announcements. I initially sent you what we call our welcome announcement. And in the welcome announcement, it tells you who I am, tells you what the course is, and it reminds you of things that you should do throughout the course to be able to perform very well. And lectures, as it says, from 8:30 to 9:30. Tonight's lecture will go longer because it's an open house. And if you got the email that I sent, you saw that. And then beginning next week, then we will go, actually the 15th is the exact date that we will go from 8:30 to 9:30. So pay close attention to that welcome announcement, which you guys are all familiar with who've had me before. And then your weekly announcements each week gives the topic and the issues that we cover during that particular week. And then we, I didn't correct this one. This says beginning January 4th, which that is not true. It actually began, okay, I gotta fix that. I didn't even notice that. I know what happened. Okay, this is how I fix it. Boy, this new system is really giving us professors fits too. Okay, so I gotta do this. Okay, evening, beginning, July the 8th. Okay, and then you'll see the rest of that stuff here. Let me save that. So now we go back and put that in there, post now, so you can see it again. So if you go now, you'll see it now has Thursday evenings. All right. Anybody who got this wrong, that means they didn't look at the calendar, because the calendar is absolutely right. And so then this gives the link as well. Discussion assignments. Notice the initial post is due Thursday and the reply post due Saturday. That's this week. So that's what I talked about earlier. And then your written assignment is due on the 4th or 5th Amendment this Sunday. And make sure you follow rubrics. Rubrics, you guys already know me with rubrics. You do well, you follow the rubric and what I say in the lectures. And then this talks about the first lecture, and it tells you how long it lasts, 1.5 hours. And that's the one we're in right now. And then there's the link again. Okay. So each week you'll see. Now, by the way, they will all be here. So you'll have them in what they call an archive in your announcement section. So, all right. So now let's take a look at the calendar. I like the month view, and it tells you course began Tuesday, your initial post due tonight, your open house live lecture, and then your reply post. So you notice it says initial post. This says discussion. So that's the reply post. Okay. And then your written assignment, and then your live classroom lecture. Okay. And then you see starting next Tuesday, that's when your initial posts are now due, not Thursdays. Because I know some people are going to submit them and say, oh, I thought it was Thursdays. Haven't been Thursdays ever, except when we start the course. And the reason why it wasn't Tuesday is we started the class on Tuesday, as I said earlier. All right. So now, just as a reminder, if you keep going along, the course ends on the 10th. That is the last day of class of August, 10th of August. The course will be over. So in 2 days from now, you'll have 1 month for the course to be over. That's why it's incumbent upon you to keep up with this. Now, I do want to point out something to you, and I'll be saying this over and over. If you look at this week, week 5, there will be a lecture for week 5 that'll be on Tuesday. And the closer we get to it, you'll see that. Then on Thursday, there will be the week 6 lecture. Well, Professor, why are you doing that? Because I didn't want to do it Friday or Saturday, but because the course ends. I don't want to give you a lecture on the day it ends, and I didn't want to do it the Monday before. So you got 2 that week. So this will be week 5 lecture. This will be week 6 lecture. So that's not to confuse you, but just to let you know. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? No questions? Okay, excellent. All right. So now having covered that, let's take a look at the written assignment in this week. So we're clicking on this. As soon as it opens up, there we go. And it gives an overview, and then it tells the assignments. Now, here's the written assignment for this week and the content. And it gives you a scenario, and you're going to do a 2, not 1.5, not 1 3/4, but 2 pages, double space, APA formatted papers. Now, you can go beyond that. It's okay. And you're going to cover the issues here. And when you do that, you're going to explain the crime control and due process models of justice, as well as the 4th and 5th Amendments that provide rights to offenders during questions. We will talk a little bit about the 4th Amendment and the 5th Amendment before we adjourn tonight. But this is the assignment itself. Using the course lectures, specifically the timeline of American criminal justice system, and researching at least 2 additional articles illustrate the steps that it takes as the arresting officer to ensure that you do not violate the suspect's rights. We'll talk about that. Discuss the limitations faced with the 4th and 5th. We'll talk about that. Should be, it says 750 to 1,000 words in length. That should equal out to 2 pages. with the cover page and then your citations and reference page. And it tells you that right there. Tells you what APA we're using again, where you can get help. We already talked about that. How you can make an appointment with the librarian as well. All right. Now, there is a grading rubric for 40 points max that you will see in just a moment. It is coming up gradually. There it comes. Okay. Now, if you've been in my classes before and I've taught with this, what column do I like you to focus on? You remember? So you got it, mastery, proficiency, competence, or emerging. Absolutely. Get that question mark off of there. Yes. Mastery. Mastery. Remember what I said earlier, A and B students. That's these people right here. Okay? You start to get to fall off when you get here. But look at what they're telling you. For 1/4 of your grade, a clear and comprehensive explanation of the crime control and due process models of justice, as well as the Fourth and Fifth Amendments. Now, you should have citations to support your statements. Remember, we already talked about that in the academic integrity video. Steps the arresting officer should take. Clear and comprehensive illustration of the steps that an officer takes to ensure that the rights are not violated. And then finally, clear and comprehensive discussion of the limitations of the Fourth and Fifth Amendment. Now, in here, you should remember it said earlier APA. So somebody will say, well, where in the rubric it doesn't say citations. It says that in the assignment itself, but remember what the rubric is for. The rubric is for grading to balance off and make sure that you understand. And if you miss some of that, you will lose points. There's 40 points altogether that you want to get. You don't want to be over here because notice it says unclear, unclear. Okay, unclear. You don't want to have that. That's, like I said again, not doing AB work. Somewhat clear, not quite clear. Okay, you got a clear, what's the difference in this and this? And so what it says, if you notice, it doesn't cover everything adequately. Clear explanation of the crime control and due process models, as well as the Fourth Amendment. But the key thing that is the difference, clear and comprehensive. Comprehensive. How you say go above and beyond the norm? That's what I'm talking about. That's how you get to mastery. Notice comprehensive will always be for mastery. Clear can be just proficiency. So like I said again, you can actually the way it's supposed to be is it's supposed to be A, B, C, D, and F. But the way that I explain it to my students is A, B, C, D, and F. That's the way I explain it. Because if you're not paying attention to this, I could block these off for you. Because this is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to focus on there. Some students like this over here. They said, that's their commitment. But that's a bad practice. It's not the practice that Professor Wright stresses, and you guys all know that and knowing that. So any questions about the written assignment for week 1? Okay, excellent. Those of you who are not here can't ask me that unless you'll be reaching out to me later. The discussion assignment, we already know how that operates, and you will provide that. And if I go down, it'll tell me who has submitted and what they have said, which I have no problem showing because you each will see that anyway. By the way, you are aware of the fact that you have post first, or should be aware of post first, which means that if you look at your discussion post before you submit your post, you won't see anything. It's because you have to post first in order to be able to see the rest. And the reason for that is because I want students to be able to submit their own individual posts. So you use this scenario, and then you deal with 1 and 2 and answer. So I don't even have to explain that to you. It's self-explanatory. Your live classroom recording, right now, if you click on it, it will tell you that this is today at 8:30 p.m. Central, and it tells you this is where it would. I'm not clicking on this because it will take us into our classroom and we're going to have some confusion here. But this is for when you, now after I finish this, I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to put down here the link that I have for you for the recording. Okay. Um, Students who come to the live lecture don't really need to know that, but those who don't will need. All right. Here, of course, you come here for your live classroom. You take to get your 5 points. I will tell you what that response is, and then you will give it to me. And it will be done on the 11th also. All right. So now I'm going to spend the next few minutes going over these issues here. So what is this? What are we doing here? And this actually gives you a timeline. Remember, they were talking about that earlier, of going all the way from the 30s and dealing with arrests and crime, and leading us all the way up to the present time. And you will discover that as time went on, there were more rights that were established for individuals based on the way that the Constitution was interpreted, such as the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment is an amendment that has to do with search and seizure. And that's probably the most used amendment by law enforcement individuals, which says that you must respect the privacy of people unless you obtain a warrant. And the way you get a warrant is to go before a judge with an affidavit indicating that you have probable cause to be able to search or seize or arrest someone, and that the judge issues that. And it has to be based on fact. Then the exceptions, there are some exceptions that you don't have to get a warrant. And those are things like plain view, where the items are in plain view. A police officer is walking by in an area and they see you doing coke or marijuana in a state where it's not legal, and you can be arrested for that because you did it in their presence, those kind of things. Drinking alcohol and things of that nature. And so there's some other exceptions as well. And so the police have begun to move in a direction of better service to the community. If you look at the period of time where the civil rights era from 60s to 70s, that's when we get to cases like Miranda versus Arizona, that's a Fifth Amendment case, which we'll talk about in a minute. But you have Mapp versus Ohio, or you have the Ohio case, the stop and frisk case that we have, and you apply that case to individuals to determine if you stop them on the street for a brief period of time, where there's an exception um, to the warrant itself. And so you have the stop and frisk. Okay. So you can stop individuals. And the most famous case that involved that one is called, and I'm drawing a blank on it, that's what, the Terry stop. Terry versus Ohio. That's the #1 case for stop and frisk. So all these rights came about because individuals brought cases to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court interpret them. So now we are making sure that we have due process rights. Due process means you have an opportunity to respond to the charges. You have a right to attorney. That's the Sixth Amendment, based up on Gideon versus Wainwright and Escobedo versus Illinois, and cases like that. But police are, as it says in this last sentence, trained on how to recognize psychological disorders and provide resources. We are witnessing in our era now where police officers are now getting training, thank God, for dealing with individuals who have mental health issues. We already have a drug and crime, you know that one from Drugs and Crime. But the mental illness aspect of it is something that we want to try to do things so that we can not shoot people who are having mental crisis, but maybe even tase them, or disarm them some other way rather than taking their lives, taking out our guns. And just because they have a knife held up doesn't mean we have to shoot them all the time, because a lot of time, most of the time, people who do that, there's something mentally going on up here, or they can be high. So we're dealing with, as it says, drug and alcohol abuse, mental illness, and homelessness. We talked about those first two, um, drug and alcohol abuse and mental illness in J250, Drugs and Crime, where I've always said that drugs and crime go right together, because people commit crimes to support their habits. Okay. So you look at the areas and how we move toward where law enforcement is becoming more like a social worker. And we talk about the steps. And this is something that you're going to have to do, starting with arrest and going through these various steps and explaining that when a person is arrested and then they're booked, that means their fingerprints are taken, their mugshot is taken, they appear in court for a bond hearing within 72 hours after the arrest. And then in court, the case is assigned for arraignment, where at arraignment, there's only two things that the defendant can do. And they can answer either. Do you know what their answers would be in arraignment? There's only two answers. If you saw my cousin Vinny, you know that one. Do you know? If you don't, I'll tell you. Guilty or not guilty. That's it. You don't go beyond that. That's all attorney is really supposed to do, allow. Guilty or not guilty. Because the purpose for it is if you say guilty, well then you jump ahead to plea bargaining. But most arraignments are not guilties. And then the formal charges are issued for what you're charged with. And then there may be a grand jury investigation, or there may be a preliminary hearing where it can be determined if there is adequate enough evidence to take them and bind them over to trial. Once it goes over that, past that charge, and then you get to discovery, which some jurisdictions call disclosure, where the defense attorney is able to file a motion for discovery or disclosure, requesting that the prosecution provide evidence to substantiate the charges. And the prosecution has the responsibility of releasing to the defense what we call any evidence that could be exculpatory. When I say exculpatory, I mean evidence that could benefit the defense. If it's determined that they held that out, that can be a grounds for mistrial and sanctions for the prosecution. And so then it then talks about early resolution. If a person decides then to either plead guilty, and then there's a pretrial intervention section, and then at that particular point, or they decide not to go forward, and they've gotten all their discovery, and they determine which way they're going to go, and they want to eliminate some of the evidence, such as illegally seized statements, illegally seized evidence. We file what we call motions to suppress. That's usually done pre-trial by us lawyers. We do those also if a person commits a crime and we believe that there are some psychological issues with that individual. We will file those. And during the course of discovery and all of that, there's what we call a lot of continuances. And the reason why there's continuances is to give the parties a chance to make sure that they have all the evidence transferred properly, and that the defense is able to be adequately prepared to defend their client. Okay, then it goes through pretrial hearings, and then where you deal with the motions and things of that nature. And then also, finally, if the person decides they're going to plead guilty after getting all the evidence, then that takes place. Depositions, we generally don't have that issue. We go to trial, and if a person is found not guilty, then the person goes free. If they are sentenced, trial, then they are sentenced after that, and then they have a right to appeal. Now, let me go back and let you know that, and I said this before, that 90% of the cases that come up are disposed through pretrial conferences or plea bargaining, as the term that you've heard of. You heard of plea bargaining, haven't you? Yeah, in that instance, the attorneys will come together with the judge. A pre-sentence investigation will be requested, and they'll determine if they can plead their client out. I've done that many a times. But think about what I just said. 90% of the cases don't go to trial because they get settled by pretrial conferences or dealing with plea bargaining. Now, some people frown on that, but the way that our system operates with speedy trials, the right to speedy trials, that if the defendant is not brought to trial properly by the prosecution and the defense answers ready within 120 days, 90 days, whatever the jurisdiction is, then that person can walk out and walk free. But that doesn't generally happen. Okay. And then here are some explanations of cases for the Fourth Amendment. You can see some of those by just clicking this right here. I've already mentioned a few of the cases. Let's see. I haven't mentioned these. Terry versus Ohio, that's a stop and frisk case. And these are cases that have to do with research for cars, things like this. If you were to take my my constitutional law class. And so these are just some of the cases for those kinds of things. The Fourth Amendment. Then the Fifth Amendment, you're going to see the infamous Miranda case. That's Miranda versus Arizona, which you're familiar with the Miranda warnings. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you can't afford one, will be appointed for you. Do you understand these rights? I have some inside information on Miranda versus Arizona. For those who took criminal law with me, know this, that my professor that I had, Fred Enbow, was at Northwestern University, was the author, along with a guy named John Reed, of the confession techniques that were utilized by law enforcement in Arizona to against Miranda, and that the out of that was birthed the Miranda warnings. Well, my professor, whose techniques were noted in the footnote, if you ever read the full case, you'll see it at the bottom, Interrogation and Confessions textbook or book by John Reed and Fred Enbow. Fred Enbow was my professor, and he felt personally maligned by the United States Supreme Court, and he made it his personal vendetta to try to get Miranda overturned. Didn't happen. But every time a case came up before the United States Supreme Court involving Miranda versus Arizona, then you would be able to, he would submit a brief on behalf of prosecution. But there's a whole lot of cool information that's in here that involves Miranda. You get a chance, you can take a look at that. You'll learn some really cool things about Miranda, other than the rights themselves, but understand how those rights came about. Know Your Rights, a guide to U.S. Constitution and how criminal cases work. That's where some of this information up here came from. It's funny, Know Your Rights. I used to do a radio show called Know Your Rights, but mine was spelled with W-R-I-G-H-T-S, but I talked about R-I-G-H-T-S as well. So, all right, so you get that information. Sources of law are the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the United States, which lays out the three tiers: the executive, which consists of the president and maybe law enforcement, the governor, mayor, and so forth. It tells you the legislative branch, which consists of the House and the Senate. They pass the statutes or codes or laws to interpret and the Constitution. And then the judicial branch, the United States Supreme Court being the highest court of the land. But all the courts decide on, as it says, sentencing and interpret the laws itself. Okay, so all three branches. And due process, I talked about that earlier, which is fairness and procedural safeguards so that individuals are not, constitutional rights are not violated. The Fourth Amendment, we talked about the Fifth. The Sixth Amendment is the right to counsel, Gideon versus Wainwright. The 14th Amendment is what applied the Fourth, Fifth, and other amendments to the states themselves. And then I talked about how the fourth is dealing with search and seizure. The fifth is against self-incrimination. That Miranda case is the leading. And the sixth is our trial rights, such as the right to an attorney and right to a speedy trial. And the 14th Amendment makes sure that the states provide due process rights so that you can not just be sentenced, but you have a hearing. This explains the United States Supreme Court, Gideon versus Wainwright. That's the constitutional right for a court-appointed attorney I was talking about earlier. And then the Fourth Amendment deals with, again, search and seizure. Okay. Supreme Court consists of how many members? You know? Is it 7? Is it 9? Is it 11? You know? Well, right now it's 9. It's 9 justices. And that's where it's been for a long time. They're trying to change that, but it's 9. That's why you have a lot of what we call 6-3 opinions that take place. Now, we're going to close with the 3 components of the justice system, which you need to know about. And here they are: the police, the courts, and corrections. Guilty individuals deal with this at the end. Persons who are not guilty could deal with this and this. Okay? All have the duty to find, punish, and rehabilitate, especially in corrections. We get to that. But when you read this down here, and I'm not going to go through each of these, all the way from arrest to when the prosecution makes the charges, and then you deal with probable cause, which is important, which the police need that to obtain a warrant. I talked about that earlier, collect evidence for arrest or search and seizure. Then the courts and the prosecutor. The prosecutor represents the people. Okay. Then defense attorney represents the person who is charged. The jury generally consists of 12. And in our jurisdictions now, all require, before a person is found guilty by a jury of their peers, in especially felony cases, there must be a unanimous vote of all 12. If there is not, there is what we call a hung jury, and the person can either walk or be tried again. Okay? Usually jury panels consist of 14. The reason why they consist of 14 is that there are 2 people who are what we call alternate jurors. And these individuals are there to hear the whole case in case something happens to 2 of the individuals on the panel, so that they'll have 12 when they get ready to deliberate. Juries are selected by most jurisdictions, the voters' rolls, and individuals are selected to arrive at what we call a jury of the peers for the person who's being charged with the crime. Okay, the system of juries is so critical. I, as a lawyer, criminal defense lawyer, was taught to get 12 in the box. That is jury. My not guilty verdicts were in the high 90 percentiles. So in other words, over 90% of my clients that actually cases that went to trial, not those that we pled guilty, that went to trial were acquitted because I knew my stuff and I knew how to do it. And it explains um, how individuals' constitutional rights are protected as well. And so then the defendant, if the person is sentenced and they don't go to jail, they get probation. So that they're assigned to a probation officer. Otherwise, they could be given time in prison and turned over to the Department of Corrections. Now, when the Department of Corrections has them, the key thing it says rehabilitation, because it says, notice what it says. While in custody of corrections, the defendant may choose to attend treatment for rehabilitation of substance abuse or mental health issues. We've talked about that a lot in drugs and crime, and that's why I believe rehabilitation is important. Corrections is viewed as a rehabilitative function. It used to be the punitive function, but it's rehabilitative function to provide resources to correct behavior and prevent recidivism. Recidivism is repeating offenses and ending up back in jail or before the judge. So now you know what those three are. And if you click on these, it should take you to, let's see, they said they were going to add information down here. I don't think they did. No, they just made it bigger. So they just broke it down in these paragraphs down here. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So this is a good course. I like this. It's a survey of things that you've actually learned or dealt with when you took. Oh, there's one thing I did want to show you. I didn't show it to you, so I'm gonna go back and pull this up and share it. I want to get rid of this, and I want to take you. I'm going to go to the student view because I want you to see it in the student view because you can actually see it there. Who your colleagues are and classmates, and you'll recognize them. So I'm not releasing anything because you can click on this in student view and it tells you everybody who is in your course. And these are, and then if you clicked on their name, it um, gives you their email address as well. And then if they have a picture, it shows you that as well. Okay. So some of these people in here you might recognize from other classes that you've had. Okay. Then it tells that instructor, me, and looks like I and Jenna and Trinity are the only ones. Trinity, yeah, Trinity has a picture here. Yeah, you can see that a little bit there. All right. I invite students always to get put nice pictures in there also, because you guys get a chance to see us. We don't always see you. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that as well. So you got 14 members in this class all together. That's pretty cool for me because that's 14 papers every week that I have to grade for this class. Yay! I'm clapping for myself. Okay. Okay. Well, I have said all I need to say tonight. We are actually right at time. So I'm going to give you a key phrase that you can utilize for this week. Fourth Amendment. That's it. Give me that. Fourth Amendment. You can write it out in words or you can write it in numbers. But you got to say, don't just put fourth or fifth or fourth. Put Fourth Amendment. Okay. And you have your points. And that's it for tonight. I'm going to say good night. I thank you for hanging out with me again. Good to see you, Jessica. And Trinity was here a little earlier. She had to leave, I guess. And hopefully I'll see many of you guys who look at the recording in weeks to come. Course, though, like I said again, this is a pretty easy course for you. It really ought to be a fun course too, as well. I like lecturing in it. I'm gonna do more lecturing next week, but this week I wanted to go through the systems again to make sure. So I'm gonna adjourn about now. Say good night and enjoy your week. Oh, you're welcome. And I'll see you next week.